now, city kids, gather round for urban myths. Hush now, city kids. When it came to me after so long, I didn't have no choices in the streets where I was from. When I think about the pain, I didn't have no choices. I took what I had sworn. Hush now, city kids, gather round for urban myths. Hush now, city kids.
Good evening, welcome to Geordies here. Geordies there on NUFC Matters. The lads are smiling there because they've seen the new graphics. Stu's delighted with the way he looks on that flyer. George has knocked 10 years off and we've given them to Steve Hasty. Me and Mitch are used to being morphed into something that we're not. Al Willie probably looks the best. And Steve Wilkinson, well, he hasn't decided yet.
I used to have hair. Could you not put some on?
And Kev's
you can have my pink hair if you want. You said it wasn't pink.
Kevin, who's not with us tonight, because I asked him to dip out because he's already done the season review on the fans forum. Is just delighted that he's on a flyer. So you know that's it basically. But nice little tribute to the end as well. I mean, you know, we've had some great characters over the years at Newcastle United on the pitch, but off the pitch we have as well. And I just thought it was nice to be able to give a little bit of a reminder to those who've passed. John the Badge, of course. Mr. Alder and Mr. Sweeney and Stevie Charlton, who was we've spoken about many times on this show, and I know we'll probably end up speaking quite a few more times over the over the course of those were the days now coming into the 80s and 90s, because he was certainly a prevalent character in those days. Yeah. But that's the new one. And yes, somebody said, is that the Long Sands? Yes, it is. Album 2, songs called Choices. What I might start doing is just going back through the Long Sands back catalogue. Got a few videos. I might start putting them on at the end of the Amigos so people can, lots of new viewers who probably won't even know. And a big shout out to the guy and his wonderful wife who I met at the Bruce Springsteen concert last night as I was leaving, and I didn't get a chance to get your names. They said they're a big viewer. They watch the show all the time. Scottish guy, Newcastle fan. I will feature your photograph on the Amigos on Friday. So without further ado, we will have a little season look back, first of all. We'll try and take some comments from you in the second half of the show. If we can squeeze Ask George in, we will as well. But we always spend the week after a season looking back and getting the guys' memories, highlights, whatever. And sticking with the same categories as we had, we're going to go with goal of the season first, George. 68 to pick from. What was your goal of the season, mate?
The Almiron goal at Fulham, because of the technique needed to score that goal over the top with his left foot and all of that. So yeah, that was my goal. It was, as I say, for me, it was about technique. There were others that obviously Max's volley at Wolves was good, but there were others, and there were 2 or 3 in the Tottenham game which could have been goal of the season. But I kept going back to Almiron's because of the setup, the one-touch football that got him where he was. And then the absolute brilliant technique to sit it in the back of the net.
Okay, Stu, before I get your goal of the season, do a quick just recap of the what was it? The fantasy league that you did.
Yeah, there was the fantasy football league that was for fun. It's set up under NUFC Matters. The 3 people broke away, and it was won in the end quite convincingly by Paul Pearson, under the name of Miggy's Eyebrows. So congratulations to Paul. In second place was Craig Simmons, who was nip and tuck with the person who was third, right up until the last day, which the third person was me. Clinching a Champions League place was Paul Davison with his Legacy Magpies. And then you've got a shout out for some of the people that you may have know in the rest of the top 10. Spenny Mag was 5th. And Al Walid was 6th, and Mr. Hasty was 9th. Oh. So we did quite well for the top 10.
Well done. Well done.
Paul Pearson.
Excellent, mate. Okay, I've just got a quick announcement as well from Joe Walker. He said The manager of the month for the Super 6, which of course Joe ran very well all season. August was Ryan Martin. September was Alan Hall. October, Maureen Stobbart. November, Keith Patterson. December, Chris Middleton. January, Paul Williams. February, Mark Garfoot. March, Rowan Barua. And April, Ian Charlton. And May, Ryan Martin. The overall winner with 494 points was Jack Railton. Second was Rowan Barua on 490. And third was Andrew Embleton. I, of course, was locked out. But well done to you all. Thanks for joining. And John, I'm sure, who will be in the chat at some point, will probably put in the link for next year's, which, of course, you can apply for. So, Stu, goal of the season, please.
Well, how George described Miggy's goal, I could use the same superlatives for the goal I chose. And that was Alan St. Maximin's against Wolves early in the season. Yeah. I thought the technique, the control, the vision, and the confidence in his own ability to strike the ball as he did, and with the ball coming at the pace it was, the height it was, the fact it was in injury time, and he managed to keep the ball down, which for those who played football is very hard when you get a ball coming at you in that direction to keep it down. He got his head over it and struck it sweetly. And for all the skills and razzmatazz he has, you could see he was not surprised, but excited and elated with his finish, the way he ran towards the dugouts to celebrate with the coaching staff. So once that goal went in, I remember watching it and I thought we'll be hard pressed to get a goal that'll beat that this season. And there was some that ran it close. There was a lot of, I've seen that Mr. Allen there about my pink hair. There's a lot of close contenders. I'm sure the lads will come up with other very, very worthy choices. But for me, it was Alan St. Maximin's thunderblast down against Wolves.
Okay. What about you, Steve? Your goal of the season for Newcastle?
Well, if anybody saw Match of the Day on Sunday, they'll see that we probably had three goals in the top the 10 to choose from. And unfortunately, having that, it meant that the vote got split, as it has been already with George and Stu picking different goals. And I suspect had there only been one goal in from Newcastle, any of the three that were on, they would have won, because I certainly think all three of our goals were better than the one that won NCC. But obviously our vote was split across the three goals, which was unfortunate. But it's very difficult to split them. And I was originally going with Stu's decision on ASM, but this morning I watched the thing on NUFC TV with all 68 goals, and that's a well worth 39 minutes to watch once and again and again and again. So if anybody wants to see all the goals, they're there on YouTube or in NUFC TV. And when I watched that, I tended to drift towards agreeing with George. The reason being that I think the ball was a fantastic goal, but it was a right foot volley all day. And we know Miggy hasn't got a right foot. I hope he learns to get one during the summer. But he sort of did a twist and to do all that while the ball was on in the air to suddenly get it and hit it sweetly like he did into the top corner using his left foot. I think just edges out ASM's goal, which, you know, I was originally thinking about one because it was out of the blue, and it was a last-minute goal that got us another point and kept the unbeaten run going at that stage. So, but I'm going to err on side of Miggy for agree with George.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. What about you, Al Walid? Your goal of the season, please.
Actually, I have two. I couldn't decide which one.
What's that?
First, I have two. I couldn't decide which one.
Well, that's fine. I don't mind. One of them is going to have to be number one, and one of them is going to have to be number two.
Off the fence already. Off the fence.
Okay. Number one, Jacob Murphy goal against Tottenham. The one who just suddenly, I think the second goal of him against Tottenham, when he was shocked and surprised, and that when Tottenham was collapsed, I really like that moment. The second one, Sean Longstaff in Carabao Cup semi-final. I think the away game, when he cried after scoring in the beginning of the game, it was so really important and emotional goal.
Okay. Steve, do you need a drink? Should I move on? Are you okay? All right.
Sean Longstaff crying.
All right, go on, Steve.
Right. Well, my goal this season was the goal that started it all off. Fabian Shaw against Nottingham Forest picks the ball up, walks forward. Nobody comes near him. And I think that summed up, it showed us right at the very beginning something that carried on all the way through the season, how poor some of the defences were. But then he just hits this rocket of a shot that the goalkeeper didn't see until late. But it went between the goalkeeper and the post by a matter of inches. I mean, it scraped the post, scraped the keeper's hands, but the sheer power of it. So for me, the fact that he got us off to start the season with a win, a fabulous goal to see. I don't think he scored again either, I think. But it was also a rare goal by a defender at Newcastle United. So it's got a lot of things wrapped around it. And I didn't want to pick Miggy, and I didn't want to pick Wilson or Isak or Murphy or anybody else. I thought, let's go to something different.
Yeah, it's fair enough. I mean, like, it doesn't have to be the most spectacular goal. I mean, it was quite funny. Match of the day on their selection had Jacob Murphy's tap in after Isak's wonderful run as goal of the season nomination or match of the day. But, you know, it can be a goal for all many kind of reasons, not necessarily the finish. Okay, Mitch, you're finishing off this little part.
I love the Thunder Bastard. I make no bones about it. And we've had, you know, honourable mentions there, Fabian Shaw, Alan St-Maximin. But for me, it was Jacob Murphy's screamer against Spurs. I think, how did he describe himself? He was feeling juicy. And so he just hit it. You know, classic Jacob Murphy, really, as we've come to know him. But for me, it was, if you look at the Spurs fans' reactions to it, there's a wonderful compilation on YouTube of the Spurs podcasters' watch-alongs for that game and their reactions to each goal. And their reactions to that goal are just unbelievable. You know, it's like one of them described something along the lines of how was Jacob Murphy just morphed into prime Gerrard. And he did. I mean, it come from nowhere. And they're the goals that I love. And actually, it came close to my moment of the season. And the reason being, watching that in Brooklyn Bar with the Dubai Mags, when that goal went in, there was a measurable. It can't have been long, but it was definitely measurable silence before everybody erupted. It was that sort of, Jesus, has he just done that? And it was enough of a pause for everybody to let it sink in before the whole place went mental. And I think also just for him, for how he's grown as a player and as a member of that squad, and the pleasure of having some time with him in Riyadh, and what an absolutely wonderful young man he is. And he grew up supporting me. And so you kind of ask for more. And so that's for a number of reasons why that's my goal of the season.
Great stuff, great selections. That's what makes these end of season programs all the more, interesting, because everyone's got different.
Steve, aren't we lucky to be able to sit here and we'll pick those goals, and we're only scratching the surface. There's so many more we could have picked. What a season! I mean, you know, we're very fortunate. We are.
Yeah, I do want to thank Newcastle United for making it slightly easy for everybody at NUFC Matters by releasing all 68 goals on the on their official website. It was almost as if they were tuned in and went, "Oh, we better sort that out for them." But thank you anyway. Okay, save of the season's always a bit more difficult because the club don't release anything, as far as Nick Pope's concerned, or anyone else who plays in nets. It's in James's George. But any saves stand out?
Well, maybe controversial, but his very last one against Leicester, that was a miraculous save. He'd spent nearly the 90 minutes warming his hands on the goalpost, our own goalpost, and kicking his heels against the goalpost without actually having anything to do. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, because Leicester, give them credit, went for it, in that last minute touch was going to be sitting right in the bottom corner of our net if it hadn't been for Nick Pope. And for me, and for those reasons, that's why that's my save of the season.
Well, it was certainly mine, and because of the same reasons, George. Yeah, that was it for me. There were some absolute crackers though. Have you got a different one, Stu?
Yeah.
No, I've got exactly the same one, and not just was it a very, very good save, considering just to repeat what George said, he'd done nothing all game. He had nothing to do all game, but to be as alert and cat-like as he was, the ramifications of that going in, it doesn't bear thinking about, because we were down to the bare bones of the squad. And then that would mean we would have had to have went to Chelsea to win, not just to get a point. We would have to have went and won. And I think the mood would have deflated very quickly. And the fact that it had been a party atmosphere all game, hadn't it? And then it got tense for the last 20 minutes. And that's when Stockholm Syndrome would have stuck at their best. I knew it. It had to happen to us. I knew it. Yet he stuck a big paw out and saved it. And Champions League would come. So for me, the save had to be Popes against Leicester.
Okay, Steve.
Yeah, definitely a contender, and a one that was part of me thinking. And I think the other one that we got a lot of mentions on Monday was the Palace one in the away game, which may get mentioned later on. But I'm going to go for the penalty saves in the shootout against Palace at the end of the game, because had he not made those saves, we wouldn't have got the trip to Wembley. And there was I think he saved 3 altogether in that shootout, didn't he?
Yeah.
But there was one, I think, that he full length to the left, I think it was, full arm stretch, and it was a well hit one that I think was pretty vital in that. And as I said, it was as good as scoring a goal, which obviously we forget the fact that sometimes the saves the keeper makes are as good as goals in winning us points. So I'm going to go with that one in the Palace penalty shootout.
Yeah, that's the one I picked. Again, for the same reason, because it would never have got to Wembley if it hadn't been for that. Al-Walid?
It must be Leicester, because I think that the only moment I was really scared that time, because it was very tense game, and last 5 minutes must be Leicester.
Yeah, got to be Leicester. Okay, Gary Milligan says, "Hi, Steve Wilkinson. Meeting you before the Brighton game was a pleasure and a privilege."
Cheers, Gary. Good to talk to you as well.
And Blue Rhythm Boy was surprised I didn't pick a Chris Wood goal. How man? It's in the past that now, man. Steve?
I think save of the season was probably the one pound that Pope saved when he nipped out during the Man United game and went over to Tesco Extra and got himself a meal deal.
Classic.
I'd go for the Leicester one.
Didn't have much to do with it, to be fair.
That would be the proper goal this season.
All right, mate. Okay. And Mitch?
For me, it was between 3. There was one at Southampton, which was almost Gordon Banks-like, where he pulled it back away from behind himself with one hand to keep it out. The one at Palace, which come at him at about 400 miles an hour from 6 yards. So no wonder he's got dislocated fingers that need operations on them. But I think the one for me was the Leicester save. For me, that was his... Since he got sent off against Liverpool and missed the Carabao Cup, since he came back in, he seemed to be lacking a little bit of self-confidence for me. And to finish the season like that, whereby he can go away and say, that save got us into the Champions League, mate. Well done and thanks. I hope he takes that away as a bit of retribution. I hope he takes that away as a bit of salvation and can put the negativity of the Liverpool sending off well and truly to bed, because he's going to be playing all over Europe in the Premier competition, and he's more than played his part this season for doing so.
Yeah. Okay, Mitch, it is always difficult going last, so I'm going to give you the opportunity to give us your match of the season first.
Torn between 2, the Man City game at home, where we laid down a marker that said, yeah, we're going toe-to-toe with anybody this year. But I keep coming back to that Spurs home game. It's been a long time since I've seen us do anything like that to a team. It really could have been double figures. It was at the point where we were toying with them. It was like watching cat with a half-dead bird, you know. We were just deciding what we wanted to do. And I think that laid a marker down to the rest of the league at a really nice time to say, oh, you think about what on a wobble, do you? Have that. And so for me, I keep coming back to that Spurs game because I've never seen us punish a team like that, be so relentless, and we've got that in with, and that's going to bode well into the future. You keep that mindset going into any game. Where we'd said for ages we were going to shellac someone. Never in a million years do I think any of us thought it was going to be Spurs like that. And we'll do it again next season. Somebody will get a shellacking like that next season, and maybe it's more than one person.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff, Steve.
Man City game. Mitch said it laid a marker down. It did more than that. It showed the rest of us that we did have a bit of fight in there. We did have a team who was full of confidence and could go out and play and wasn't scared of the opposition, as most times teams went out and played Man City were. I thought that it was an absolutely brilliant game. I thought the atmosphere was fantastic. I thought the way that City came back made it an excellent game as well. And I thought that both managers performed admirably in the way that they set their teams up, the way that they went about the game. It was just one of those that for me makes going to Newcastle special when you're playing in a big team, a big game, and a 3 o'clock kickoff. I think was it 5:30? Actually, it was 5:30 kickoff. But a kickoff in the sun, in the daylight, and it was just a superb game. And the Man City fans did themselves proud with their contribution, and it was Guardiola, and he ended up getting manager of the season. But you know what? I reckon if we'd beaten Man City that day, then Eddie Howe would have been manager of the season.
Fine margins.
Yes.
Okay. Pope is Everton's save of the season 2 for that one versus Leicester, says Blue Rhythm Boy. Newcastle support Cameron Norrie wins 6-1, 6-3, 6-3 just for info. French Open against a Frenchman. Thank you, Geordie Tune for life. Roving reporter there. Al-Walid, match of the season.
There is many games as well. Tottenham, Man City. It really was a lovely game. But if, my mind stick with Arsenal away draw. But that was the first point Arsenal lost, and they were at the best, I think, performance, and we weren't, but we stopped them. I really enjoyed that game.
Okay, good one. Yes. Okay, Steve.
Yeah, Spurs for me. I've been going 61 years, and I've never seen a start to a game like that. There was just some unbelievable moments, and you did sort of think it was going to be 10 because it was 21 minutes and 5 goals, and not just normal goals. There was the one we've already talked about with Murphy, which was on my list. In the top 3 or 4 the goal of the season. It just out of the blue, it just blown away. We've got the goal that Isak's first with the pass from Willock, which was one of the, if we'd done a pass of the season category, that would have been the pass of the season. We had the reactions to the players. We had Murphy with beaming smile. We had Isak. He goes like that, and with a almost saying "what the fuck," when it was 5-0 up to 21 minutes. He'd never seen anything like it in his life. It just had everything, and you were just. It was just unbelievable the situation we're in. You really did think we could go on and get massive score, but as often happens, people take their foot off the gas, and but we're still dominating that game. Even though Harry Kane scored straight up the half time, I don't think any of us thought we're going to blow that sort of lead. In the past, maybe we would have done. We would have probably panicked at starting to come 5-1, and then thinking we're gonna struggle here. Stockholm syndrome. Here we are, but fantastic game, and definitely would like more of them next season, please.
There was a voice in Brooklyn bar when that one went in. Went, hey, I was at QPR,
Yeah, Stockholm syndrome. Yeah, hopefully we've parked that for next season. Stu, your match of the season.
I'd just like to apologise to all viewers for the foul and abusive language used by.
First time for everything.
No, exactly.
He's got something to complain about.
You thought that was an innocent lad.
I know. Well, I'll turn into Roy Castle for a second and blow me on trumpet. The best match was me in early March predicting that 71 points would get us the Champions League, and we got 71 points.
You were like Carol Vorderman.
But there was 3 games. There was 3 games. Man City, for all the reasons Mitch said. The next one for me was Liverpool away, and I know we got beat. And I know is famous for Isaac's disallowed goal and his debut. But for me, it was the catalyst for our unbeaten run that in the springboard they give us to get us into the top 4. And it was like how harsh we've been treated, and to me, it galvanised the team. They could have went one way or the other there. They could have just thought the world's against us and felt sorry for themselves and licked their wounds, but they didn't. They come out and went on a really long unbeaten run until the World Cup. But for the game of the season, it can only be, in my opinion, Tottenham 6-1. And the reason I chose that, well, it's quite obvious, but it'll be talked about for decades. That first 20 minutes, it was mind-blowing. They just destroyed Tottenham. And it'll be up there with the Man United 5-0, Barcelona 3-2. In 20 years' time, if we're still on this panel, still on this planet, for those who all watched it, they'll still talk about that. There was scintillating 20-odd minutes at the start where we were 5-0 up, and we all had little stories from it. So that's, for me, that was the game, the Tottenham.
Okay, George, game of the season for you, mate.
Well, I'm like everybody else. It's Manchester City or Tottenham. I enjoyed the Manchester City game for all the reasons Steve gave, and I particularly enjoyed it because I sat alongside Steve watching it, which was always a pleasure. However, I can't get past the first 45 minutes against Tottenham. In 70 odd years of going to St James's Park, I have not seen 45 minutes of absolutely electric football like that. We were untouchable, and it was just unbelievable to watch and amazing to be able to say, well, that's my team. So yeah, it has to be the Spurs game. It was just out of this world.
Okay, we are halfway through the show. I'm going to play the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors: Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's sauces, which are handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickys.co.uk. If you want to place an order, call 01768 210 102 or email info@mrvickys.co.uk. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the video side of things, and at qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. If you like the channel, please hit the like underneath the video. It helps us grow. And click share and share to your other social media. If you want to help us financially, please click join. And there's a range of different packages, and it explains how you can do that. If you want to become a cult member and receive these goodies, a scarf, a pen, and a cup, and a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw, for a one-off fee of £25, simply go to nufcmatters.com and find cult membership. If you've got a smartphone, put it over this QR code now. It'll take you straight there. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. And we also support the food bank on this channel. The Matchday Bucket helps you donate virtually. Go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk to find out more. We've got some events coming up over the course of the next 12 months. An evening with John Anderson takes place at the Tynemouth Surf Cafe. Only limited tickets available. 13th of June. Go to their website to buy tickets. Bend It Like Bobby. Cometh the hour, cometh the man. And just after the hour, the man did cometh at the double, as it was time to bend it like Bobby. It's a comedy play. It's a rehearsed reading by Jim Orr. It features myself and a few other cast members. Friday the 16th of June. Tickets on sale at newcastlelegends.com, and they're only £5. An evening with Frank Clark. Well, this is our Christmas due. Thursday, December the 7th. Tickets are £15 from nufcmatters.com at the Tyneside Irish Centre. And a big one for the new year, January the 25th, Keegan, Waddle and Beardsley and special guests back together, the class of 1984 at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House on Westgate Road. Tickets available direct from the venue. If you like T-shirts and you want a few for the summer, get yourself to nufcmatters.com. The Isaac T-shirt is proven very popular. Okay, George, we are up to the young player and the player of the season. We've combined those two. So give us your two selections for that.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay. Well, for me, young player, because he truly is the young player for me, I would give to Elliot Anderson. I mean, he was kept back, not allowed out loan, and he took his chances when he got it. And what impressed me was that on the games he did come on, he influenced those games, particularly the one at Nottingham Forest. And when he got a good start at the weekend, he showed he wasn't out of place. He was in the right place all the time. The player of the season, well, it was going to be. It is Trippier. I have to say the shine's knocked off it with that stuff that was on about him the other day. But yeah,
allegedly, it was all alleged, so that shouldn't spoil it for you.
Yes,
George, to be fair.
Well, I know, but he created so much from right back. It's and having played at full back quite a lot in my own playing days, it's not always easy because you've got other things on your mind. But he seems to able to put it all together and set up. I don't know how many assists he's got, but it must be quite a lot from his crosses and his dead balls and all the rest of it. So yeah, Kieran Trippier is my player this season.
Yeah, and no, contrary to your suggestion, Mark, I haven't got a part in Chernobyl. I was in Murrayfield yesterday to watch Bruce Springsteen. Didn't put any sun lotion on because it's never sunny in Scotland, is it? Of course it was. It was baking. It was like being in an oven. So that's why I'm red hot. But I did go in the shower before I came on the show, and subsequently it's flared it up a bit. But yeah, it's not as painful as it looks. Put it that way. All right, Stu.
I'm in agreement with Mark Byers. It has to be Isaac or Botman. And the fact that Botman played far more. Isaac was more the second half of the season. Botman for me. And the fact that he's been talked about was in some people's greatest ever 11s for defenders. Shows like a young lad how composed and he hit the ground running. And his first 20-odd games, he was immaculate, wasn't he? And our season was built on a solid foundations at the back, and he very much was a part of it. He allowed Fabian Shaw to move forward and create the shots that Steve scored about. And I look forward to him being the cornerstone of our defence for many seasons to come. So for me, it was definitely Sven Botman. And second for the player of the season, you could easily say Nick Pope. You could say Shaw, because I think he was very much underrated. I thought he had an exceptional season, and you can't point to many games where you say Shaw had a bad game. And you could point to many where he played well. He just went under the radar. Same bit like Sean Longstaff did his bit, but I think head and shoulders, which is quite amusing considering his size, head and shoulders above everyone else for player of the season has to be Kieran Trippier. Not just for what he does on the pitch, but off the pitch as well. His leadership, the way he's respected by the players, and we all know respect has to be earned. And you see them whenever there's a decision and they start crowding the ref, he's the first there, pushing them away. I'll deal with it. And I think using his, I'll call it kidology, it's helped him get away with a few decisions as well, because he's in the favour, in the eyes of the ref. He's seen like he's been helping the ref do his job. So okay, I'll let him off for that foul there. He could have been booked a few more times than he had. And I think his touch, his first touch is brilliant. His composure on the ball, I don't think we've had a right back like him in all the time I've watched Newcastle. So for me, Kieran Trippier is player of the season.
Okay, Steve.
Right. Well, definitely an argument in favour of both the two mentioned so far. I think Anderson is one for the future, and I was delighted that he contributed to assisting in that last goal, because it was a great ball into the middle for Gordon to score. And I think he's unfortunate that he's only got a start the last couple of games. He started against Liverpool, but unfortunately had to be sacrificed when Pope got sent off. So that was his chance to make a name for himself early. But he's never let us down, and I think it was a right decision to keep him on. But and again, I agree with Botman. I think he's going to be a fantastic player. But I'm going to go for Isak. What we've got to remember as well, Anthony Gordon was mentioning the other day that he hadn't had a close season and he wasn't as fit as the others. It was the same situation with Isak. He didn't sign till the end of August, near the end of the transfer window. So he didn't have a close season under Eddie Howe. So God knows what he'll do with him this summer. But throughout that season, he only had 18 starts, remember, because he did have an injury and 9 sub appearances. But he got 11 goals, plus that a fantastic assist that he got in that game against Everton. But the goals were just so much variation in the type of goals, and you had headers. He scored a couple of headers. He scored screamers. That one against Brentford is memorable when Wilson laid it back to him. The first goal against Liverpool, and in fact the second goal that was disallowed against Liverpool was absolutely brilliant. He just left those two guys sitting on the backsides, and other than his shadow being offside, then that would have been a fantastic start to his time. He scored the strange goal against Forest where he sort of hit it from behind himself. So many variations in the goals. Yeah. So it's Isak for me, and at his age, he's only just 23, still 23. A lot of years in front of him, and give him a close season, and maybe we've got another Haaland on our hands.
Okay, Al-Walid.
For the youth, I'm confused. Does it mean first?
Oh, sorry,
year
I didn't do it.
I thought you had given it.
Can I give me main player? Sorry, I didn't do that one.
I thought you had. I thought you said at the start. Go on.
All right. No, I was giving it. Trippier again for me. I think the assist he's done, but the leadership overall, I think, has been the thing that has helped them out. I'm sure the players don't necessarily need it, but he's been there and he's cajoled the players when they've had an off moment, and as he did last year. I'm sure he does a lot off the pitch as well that we don't see. He when he was injured at the back end last season, he was turning up in the training and the changing rooms and things, and build him in, and he's continued that leadership role, and long may that continue.
Yeah, great stuff. All right, yeah, Al-Walid, young player and player of the season. So 2 players I need from you.
If the younger player, if it's mean first season in the first team, of course Anderson. But if it's just being young, I would choose Botman. For the best player, it's very hard, really. Every player have his own moments. Trippier, Isaac, Almiron, Joe Willock, which were very improved this season. But if I choose personally, I would choose Tambert because he always give 200%.
Okay, Steve Hasty.
Right, young player of the year. The biggest problem for me was where we were drawing the line. I was hoping we could draw the line at 28, and then but obviously that's stretching it a little bit too far. Even 23 is probably stretching it, but in this day and age, as you get older, people start to look younger. Policemen look younger, and such like. I'm going to go for Sven Botman. I think the very fact that we had a defence when he came in, and then settled into the team, and then we went on a great run and we weren't conceding goals. We've already talked about Pope in goal and the fantastic run and the saves that he made. But defensively, we've got to see a young lad coming into a team and then the team going on the run and staying in the team. And then we remained as one of what I think conceded the least number of goals in the season. So for me, you mentioned Shaw and you mentioned Trippier, and Trippier for his leadership. He's just mentioned Dan Burn. I mean, there was hardly any changes for most of the season across the back line. But Botman, for me, coming in, young lad from abroad. Everybody says it takes ages to settle, and he didn't. Once he got the shirt, it was his. So he's my young player. And the player of the season, I'm going to go for Bruno because Bruno makes us tick. He's the cog in that central midfield. Yeah. I just love the touches, the drive, the little 1-2s. I think we started playing those little quick 1-2s down the right hand side Willock started to playing off him. Almiron, Trippier, and he's the man who's orchestrating it all from that midfield. And we haven't had a midfield player like that for an awful long time, and he's a gem. And for me, he's my player of the season.
Okay, and Mitch.
Young player. There's only one name for me, and that's Sven Botman. People forget he's only 22. He looks like he's been in my back four for 5 years, and he could be in my back four for the next 10.
Yeah, your dad forgot he was 22.
Yeah, and this is it. You know, the quality that he's playing at, the level he's playing at, and even when he's had a couple of shaky moments, he's never let it affect him at all. Cool, collected. He's only just going to get better. So that's what. And for the player this season, I've flipped and flopped between 3 or 4 because that's what we've done this season. Everybody's contributed. Everybody's put something into the mix throughout the entire length of the season. But for me, and based purely on the season culminating with a call up for his country, Joe Linton. What he's done, the transformation he's gone through, if you look at his stats, he's in the top 5% of central defensive midfielders in Europe, based on the work rate he gets through in terms of tackles and closing down and winning challenges in the air. From where he was and what he was to where he is now, for me, that Brazil call-up was very well deserved, hard earned, and I think there might be more to come.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, you're right.
Yeah. Okay. The last one is, it can be anything. It could be something that's happened on the pitch, off the pitch, something that happened personally. It could be, something to do with the owners, the manager, whatever. Your moment of the season, Mitch. I'm going to give you the opportunity to go first with that one, mate.
Okay. There's 2 I've been struggling really hard to go between. One's a general one and one's a very personal one. The general one, Isaac's dribble against Everton away. I've watched it so many times now. I think I'm up to 8 different players, if you include the one who seemed to be communicating with the rest of his team with the art of expressive dance in the background. That's how many players he beat to set that goal up. It was stunning. It seemed to come from nowhere. And this is just, again, a fraction of a man who I think is only going to get better. When he plays like that, when it looks like the ball's on a bit of elastic tied to his laces, it's exhilarating, and it gave a boost at a really good time. But from a very personal note, was being sat in Riyadh with two of my best mates either side of us, and Amanda coming down off that stage and pointing at me and Steve, and actually coming over and dragging the camera over with her from the Amazon team, just to say thank you. And that's more than we ever thought or wanted, was just to have somebody to just come and say, hey, thanks. And I'm glad Steve was there. I'm glad Stu was there. And that really capped off what was a wonderful trip to Riyadh.
Okay, 2 really good ones. Steve, can you top those?
I don't know. Shaw's pass against West Ham that split the defence, that gave Joe Linton a through ball. Never seen anything like it. Until Willock then had a pass outside of his foot to put us through. Mickey's smile, we saw 11 or 12 times when he put the ball in the back of the net, and we saw it another 11 or 12 times when he hit the ball over the bar, or hit the post, or hit it wide. He just seemed to have a smile on his face continuously throughout the season. All of those wonders. But I think got to give it to War Flags.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, great stuff. Vince Smith says, for Hasty, the lookalikes.
Season's over, by the way.
Are you having looking like you the season on Friday? For Steve?
Oh my God, we need about 12 hours.
Give them ideas.
And Keith would end up in the hospital. Al-Walid, your moment of the season.
You read that first.
Oh, hi, sir. The chap with the white Gajar is a nice man. He will be a good backing actor for Bill Thurl, Football Factory, good film, and my hero.
I tell you, another moment of the season had to be the fact that the who won in December the football you mentioned earlier. You mentioned it, Stewie.
Who's won? Oh, sorry.
Who won December's?
I bet you I've deleted it. Hold on.
I'll tell you who won it. It was won by Patterson when there was no football on.
November. Classic. That's a classic moment of the season. All right, Al-Walid, your moment of the season.
Well, it's a lot, really, a lot. And I was thinking about many situations. And quickly, I can say when I met some fans in the World Cup in Qatar, it was really great moments. And this is personal. Also, when I saw Mirdad, I just say hi. It was first time in the Crystal Palace game in Carabao Cup, and he invited me to his lounge. It was really, I wasn't expected. It was a great moment. And Trafalgar Square, when Jimmy Robin and Mirdad were hiding between the fans and this gathering in the Trafalgar. And for football side, of course, when the referee whistle, Leicester City, it was really a relief for all of us, and especially the players.
Yeah. Somebody on Monday's show said that Mitch's rallying call, I think it was Dunnell, said Mitch's rallying call was his moment of the season. And Paul says his moment of the season was my inspiring shot from Wembley the morning after the defeat. Thanks, mate. And yeah, I mean, you just do it when you feel you've got something to say, don't you? You put it out there. But yeah, good stuff. Slightly hungover as well, Paul. Sometimes the best way to deliver a little short. Steve, your moment of the season, please.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to think outside the box, like some of the lads have done there, not think of it on the pitch, and it was triggered by, I think it was Kevin mentioned it on Monday in the fans forum, that the moment at Wembley when Rob Byron was tweeting the teams out, and they had the Man United. Somebody's ringing.
Is it yours, George?
Mine. It's all right. Get it later.
All right, I'm not looking at you, George. To be honest, I wasn't sure. I've heard the ring before, and I was thinking, is it Steve? Is it George? But anyway, go on, Steve. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, the Man United prat, he just wanted to do his own performance. It was more about him with all the prattling on he did before he announced their teams. But when Rob Byron came to us, he just got on with announcing the teams in his usual way with, mention the name, everybody cheered when the goals. But at the end of the announcing the teams, he just went straight into Toon Black and White Army for 4 times, got the crowd going. And then he said something about getting the flags going. And it was instantaneous how suddenly a sea of black and white flags right around Wembley. And I watched it again today because I took a video with Local Hero playing behind that. And it was an emotional moment. I still got emotional today watching that, how there was just a sea of black and white flags instantaneously. It just appeared out of nowhere. And that is still a great memory for me in a moment of the season. And hopefully we'll see many more of them. And, more flags, as they did in the last game, surpassed themselves then. I didn't see much of it because I was under the big surfer in the East Stand. So I had to watch it in video later on. But where do we go from here? It's going to be some fantastic things. And I'm sure when it comes to Champions League nights, they'll surpass anything that we've seen on the European games from other teams.
The chat sometimes does this. It's on fire the night. It says, Geordie Tune for Life says, George the ice cream man is at the back door. Chipper says he'll have a Solero. I don't think people... Get me a 99, says Gary. Your mobile phone sounds like an ice cream van, George.
It was me with the ice creams the other week, wasn't it?
Moment of the season, Stu.
Well, they're all lined up for you. Knock on the door. I'll get the ball in.
Right, there's 2. One, I don't think it's the moment. I think it's more surreal moment, and that's the one that Mitch referred to. So me and Steve Hasty known each other for years. Like away games met, home games met, etc. And then we were sitting in this posh hotel in Riyadh next to each other in a 70, only 70 people were invited to it. And we were sitting there just thinking, wow. And the fact that the manager was there to interact with us, Darren Eales was there, Amanda was there, that just felt really, really surreal, I suppose. But the moment of the season for me, from a personal view, was, again, with Mitch, when we come out after collecting the tickets, him, me, and the Heed got the train because my brother disappeared to go meet his kids, my nephews, and him, me, and Heed come back into Wembley Waste, considering we'd already been there early in the morning to pick my tickets up, and watching it fill up from when it was empty when we went there at 10 in the morning to see how full it was, like an hour before kickoff. And I'm walking there with two of my best mates, walking up Wembley Way, thinking, this isn't by fluke. We beat, like, was it 3 or 4 Premier League teams to get there? It's not like we've won a semi-final against a team from the 3rd division or something. And I think it was in the knowledge that, although it'd been 24 years since the last time, and you start thinking how much life had changed in that period, and like different countries I've lived in and things like that. It all, to me, it got not to the point of overwhelming, but there was so many random thoughts going into my head thinking, this is unbelievable. I never thought I'd see this day. And under Mike Ashley, we was standing waiting for that day to happen. So the fact that we walked up there and just the whole weekend, and I'm sure Mitchell reiterate what I'm saying, it was amazing just from walking along and people shouting dentist at them, and some of the stories from the nights that we can't repeat on a family show that were happening. The whole thing, the moment of the season was just going to Wembley Way, part of the Toon Army, and then seeing the players come out onto the pitch. For me, that had to be the moment of the season.
Great stuff. George, what was yours?
Well, I'm stuck with two. The first one's a simple one. It's the same as Steve Hastie's. Steve knows how much I like. In fact, you almost know how much I like War Flags. They've made going to the match an occasion again, and it hasn't been like that for me for many, many, many years. Always going with the family. Going to the match was important, but so were all the other things that they did, and and going into different places to Mark Tony's for an ice cream and all the other things we used to do made it an occasion. War Flags and others, and I've got to say, standing at the food bank station as well, it made the match an occasion. It isn't just people standing there miserable wondering about how many we're going to get beat this time. They've just made it an occasion. But I've had a very, very personal one, is that the absolute sheer pride of a father watching Neil and Stu and Steve with everybody in Saudi Arabia and Amanda, they can give a hug and talk to the cameras with them and all the rest of it. That was, I suppose, that sealed it for me. That we had arrived. We're at the top table now, and thank God for that. All the years, 77 years now, and we're actually at the top table, and people are taking notice of when, and that's got to be a very personal moment of the season for me.
Lovely. I tell you what, great recollections there, lads, and nice to hear so many personal stories towards the end. Nearly at the end of the show, there is a question from East Midlands Mag. I've been backwards and forwards with him on Instagram today, actually. He's been disappointed at the ticket and stuff, which I'm sure we'll end up talking about on the Amigos, obviously the advisory committee last night. But it's just a question he's got there. East Midlands Mag says, question regarding season tickets. Has anyone had a response from the club who lives overseas and has a season ticket at St James's Park? Does that concern... You guys haven't got season tickets? Mitch, have you got one? Have you had a response?
Someone else's name, which is another debate as well.
Mitch, have you had a response?
Nah.
Right,
no.
Okay. Well, let's see what...
Obviously, I've got different ways to communicate in some respects at the minute. So, but no, I've had no generic or general response at all.
Right, okay. Well, maybe we'll have something by Friday. I'm sure there'll be plenty to talk about on the Amigos with regards to tickets. There was a question for you, George, just the one. So I'll not do the music, but question for George. As it's coming to a wind down, Horlicks or hot chocolate before bed, George?
Oh, Horlicks by a mile. Always liked Horlicks. In fact, one of the treats my grandmother used to buy, the little Horlicks tablets, and stick them in my school bag when I went to school. So Horlicks, I'm afraid Horlicks, yeah.
Okay. Any truth? I'm going to go to Mitch and Stu on this because as regulars of NUFC matters know, if you want transfer news or speculation, there's going to be plenty of it on other channels. On here, we just like this. We like to state facts, not fiction. So yes, is there any truth in this? Gabri Viega, who's got a much easier name to pronounce than Slobber. He looks like a baller. Is this one got any kind of legs? I'm going to be back on at 7:05 with Liam, so I'm sure Liam's going to get the questions. But I mean, this is the beginning of it, lads. It's a new name, isn't it?
A couple of the European journalists have been talking about this for about a fortnight. So there's some legs in it, and to be honest with you, I think we'll not get many names properly leaked anymore because of the way the club is so quite tight. It's not coming out from some of the places that it used to, that's for sure. However, I think we can genuinely sit and say so many of these names really are possible now with the addition of Champions League football.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just disappointed you didn't ask the lads the other day about that player Vas Deferens.
Yes, I'm glad I didn't actually. I now, when I see your name getting suggested in the chat or our WhatsApp now, I'm having to read it very slowly 10 times to make sure that I'm not getting set up. Because you know, with me and foreign players and people who play abroad, it's not really my cup of tea. Like, I leave that to the experts.
What was that about, a redhead or a blonde on that strap? That was.
I knew you wouldn't miss that, George. That's like asking blonde or redhead for George for bedtime drinks.
All right, okay.
And Blue Rhythm Boys is on the thumbnail poster for tonight's episode, which is the new poster, guys, which has caused a lot of discussion. It took a while to get it right. Tonight's episode, Mitch looks like Neil Warnock, the way that he's.
At least my head's not pink. And Stu's is only temporarily pink. What the hell's the state of yours?
Stu could actually be me on that poster now.
Really? No way.
It was worth it. I saw the boss. He was fantastic last night. And that isn't Eddie Howe on this occasion. It is Bruce Springsteen. Absolutely superb. Great show. Thoroughly enjoyed it, as I enjoyed this. Great to spend time with my mates, Mitch, Steve Hasty, Alwaleed, Steve Wilkinson, Stu, and George. Thanks for your season review. We will be back next week. No doubt to chat about all things transfer window. We'll see what's going on. And we'll be looking ahead to new sponsors, looking ahead to the new strip. People say, what do you talk about in the summer? There's always plenty to talk about on NUFC Matters. Okay, guys. Everything, exactly. All right, take care. I'll see you soon.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Yes,
Good night, everybody. Lovely to see you all.
We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.